Okay, Michael, I've gone live, so you can begin whenever you're ready.
Okay. Good afternoon. During the declared emergency, Committee of Adjustment virtual public hearings are being conducted by electronic means through WebEx, an online digital platform and stream of the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel. These measures are necessary to comply with physical distancing requirements and in-person attendance limitations. This will be a virtual public hearing, and participants who have registered in advance will be able to make their presentations to the committee using WebEx, an online event that is being moderated by city staff. Anyone wishing to view the hearing may do so by watching on YouTube. Participants who have registered in advance will be connecting either by their computer, a phone or tablet app, or by telephone. All participants will automatically be muted on entry. When your item is called, each participant will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. Only the committee members will be participating by video. Panel members participating today are Donald Taylor, Laura Alderson, Mishi McCloskey, and Sophia Ruddick, and I am Michael Clark, the panel chair. Registered participants will be participating by audio only. We also ask that you mute your devices until you are called on to speak. Land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the land we're meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with Mississaugas of the Credit. In accordance with sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is called to order. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning bylaws that apply to the property, permissions to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consents to sever properties to create new lots. Anyone in attendance today who wants to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on an application must submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure that you include your name, address, and email address, because Committee of Adjustment and in the event of an appeal, the TLAB will be sending notifications and appeal updates by email. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee rendered here today, decisions may be appealed to the Toronto Local Appeal Body or in some limited circumstances to the Ontario Land Tribunal. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision of the committee. The hearing procedure is as follows. I will call each item in the order listed in the agenda. When an application is uncontested, the agent or applicant may proceed with the presentation if desired. When the committee does not require a presentation, applicants are to advise the chair should they wish to address the committee. The committee may ask questions and or then take the matter into the committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant or agent, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee, and they're keeping track of the time in the council chamber, and you will be advised when you're reaching the 5-minute mark. At that point, we'll ask you to wrap up. When addressing the committee, please clearly state your name and address, and please remember to confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. The applicant or agent proceeds first and makes their presentation to the committee. Please note that the committee may not entertain revisions made to proposals made at the hearing today. The committee may decide to defer the application if being substantially revised in order to ensure that the revised application is accurate and that all those persons entitled to notice of the application have been informed of the changes. Then individuals either in support or opposed to the application will be invited to speak. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they finish their presentations, and when all speakers have finished, the applicant or agent is given an opportunity to rebut only those issues and answer those questions that were raised by the speakers, but not to introduce new information. That will then mark the end of discussion on the matter, and the matter is then taken into the committee for a decision. Okay, I don't believe we have any deferral requests on the afternoon agenda, the 1 p.m. time slot. So I guess we can proceed with the first application of the afternoon, number 24 2nd Street. It's for a detached dwelling with an attached garage. There are 3 variances. We have 2 letters of support and 2 letters of opposition. Urban Forestry is requesting condition number 1, and I believe we have speakers registered to speak other than the applicant or agent. So the agent is David Eagleman, back from this morning, as well as we have neighbors registered from 8 and 6 2nd Street. So letters are from 4 and 14, and the speakers are from 8 and 6th. So we'll hear first from Mr. Eagleman.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chair and committee members. David Eagleman, 900 The East Small Suite 300, and I'm a planner here on behalf of the owners. Through you, Mr. Chair, I will proceed with the presentation considering we have some opposition. Before getting into the variances, I would like to note that we have consulted extensively with community planning staff regarding this application and have made a number of significant revisions to the proposal and requested variances to the satisfaction of community planning staff. I have reviewed Urban Forestry's memorandum regarding this application, and we are acceptable to the standard recommended forestry condition number 1. And as you noted, Mr. Chair, we do have a letter of support from the immediately adjacent neighbor at 2 2nd Street. So regarding variance number 1, which pertains to the proposed north side yard setback, the proposed side yard setback of 0.46 meters will be an improvement to the existing condition on the subject property, as the existing dwelling has a north side yard setback of 0.41 meters. Moreover, the proposal is compliant with the minimum required side yard setback on the south side and will provide an aggregate of 1.54 meters in side yard setbacks on the subject property, which exceeds the aggregate amount required by the bylaw, which equates to 1.2 meters. If the proposed dwelling were built to compliant side yard setbacks of 0.6 meters on either side, the proposal would provide a total of 16% of the lot width in side yard setbacks, whereas the proposal that is in front of you today will provide a total of 20% of the lot width in side yard setbacks. Regarding variance number 2, which pertains to the proposed building length, the proposed building length variance is entirely a result of the first floor, as the second floor is compliant with the maximum permitted building length of 17 meters. Additionally, the proposed building length for the first floor is only 50 centimeters greater than what is permitted as of right and will be practically imperceptible as compared to an as of right dwelling on the subject property. The proposal is compliant with front yard and rear yard setback requirements, the maximum permitted FSI, as well as all landscaping requirements, which further demonstrates that the proposed building length is in keeping with the character of the neighborhood and will have little to no impact further than what is contemplated by the bylaw. Regarding variance number 3, which pertains to the proposed side exterior main wall height, the proposed side exterior main wall height will be very similar to or even less than a number of existing dwellings within the neighborhood. And at this time, I would like to bring the committee's attention to the submitted neighborhood photos. And through you, Mr. Chair, I don't see anything on my screen, but in terms of shared.
Yeah, can we get those Mr. Eagleman's
Yeah, Mr. Eagleman, I've paused your time until we can get the photos up. So give us.
Yep.
Thank you for that. So yeah, if you can just scroll down to photo number 2 there, through you, Mr. Chair. Photo number 2 is a picture of 31 3rd Street from the rear yard of the subject property. And 31 3rd Street was approved with an exterior main wall height variance of 9 meters. And then if you scroll down there to photo number 3, photo number 3 shows 10 2nd Street, which is just 2 houses to the north of the subject property and was approved with an exterior main wall height of 9.5 meters. Photo number 4 just below that shows 24 2nd Street, which is just 7 houses north of the subject property and is a 3-story apartment building. The rest of my submitted photos demonstrate other dwellings within the neighborhood and in close proximity to the subject property, which appear to have a similar or larger exterior main wall height as compared to the proposal. Moreover, the proposed dwelling is compliant with and is 0.45 meters less than the maximum permitted overall height and is a 2-story dwelling. As such, the proposed side exterior main wall height will be in keeping with the character of the neighborhood and will have little to no impact further than what is contemplated by the bylaw. Based on the provided justification, I'm of the opinion that this proposal fits in with both the existing and planned context for the neighborhood, is consistent with the redevelopment trends along 2nd Street and the broader neighborhood context. And for these reasons, I believe this application represents good planning and meets the 4 tests under Section 45(1) of the Planning Act. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, just one quick question for you that comes to mind. Your explanation of the overall side yards more than the 1.2 meter. So the question is, it's why slightly skew it by 1.4 and not do it in the middle if it's new build? You didn't mention why that was being done. I assume it's not arbitrary. And I don't know if it's closer to 2 or 6, but if neither neighbor. But in terms of the rationale for that that variance.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. There is a right of way on the
Okay.
on one side of the dwelling, which is the reason. It is the south side.
Okay, so that's I didn't hear you say why you were doing that. So thank you for clarifying. Okay, anyone else have any questions for Mr. Eagleman? If not, we'll go hear from the neighbors and they'll have a chance to rebut. Okay, so in that case, the next speaker is either Jeff or Tanya Killeen, number 8.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear. Welcome.
Good day. So I'll be speaking on behalf of 8 2nd Street, and really our concerns center around 2 factors. The first, we understand the proposed variance is the new standard within the neighborhood. However, the proposed extension of the back of the house and the footprint of the building will actually significantly impact the shade casted in our backyard that will inevitably leave limited sunlight, that will no longer feasibly grow grass for our children to play on, for example. And our neighbors have actually experienced this issue firsthand at 12 2nd Street with the recent development as shown between our houses at 10 2nd Street. The second concern, the timeline for the build, is really imperative to us, as the previous contractors of 10 2nd Street took approximately a year and a half in duration to build with no responsible citizenship going through the process. This means we faced a multitude of damage to our house, including mortar splashed on the side of our house, broken exhaust pipes.
Let's try to use your time for planning concerns, and while I certainly sympathize with all of that, that's not within our purview. We deal with the planning part, and there's other avenues for you to complain about that. And I personally would, agree and sympathize with you, but you're using your 5 minutes. Let's hear about is it the height or the length that's casting the shadow?
Yeah, sure. So let's go back to the first point.
Yeah.
It would be the length in the backyard.
Okay, the extra 1/2 meter that they're going back.
That's correct.
So it's 1/2 meter, right? It's 1.5 feet. So the committee has to look at not the total, but just the 1.5 feet that's in excess of the bylaw, right? But I'm saying, please continue, but I don't, in terms of the fact that the contractor made a mess and took an inordinate amount of time, I certainly sympathize. I'm sure the other members, but that's not what we're here for. Okay. So let's hear about the height and the shadow and the fact that you say you're going to lose light.
Sure. So that is our main concern, given the experience that 12 2nd Street has had with the construction shown of 10 2nd Street. The shadow casting has basically evolved into a mud hole for the backyard. So although that's the new standard, that is our concern.
Okay. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for the speaker? Members? No? So that was the neighbor at 8. Now we're going to hear from the neighbor at number 6, right next door, Paula Waters. Welcome.
Good afternoon, committee members, Mr. Chair. Paula Waters, 6 2nd Street. To be honest with you,
on the screen, so we don't have to look at ourselves. We have Ms. Waters' letter, dated March 17th. Perhaps we can get that up on the screen. Go ahead, ma'am.
Honestly, I'm a little bit confused about the last couple of conversations. The drawing that I received in the mail is very, very small. So it's difficult to figure out all of the numbers and figures as far as sizing goes. But the imprint looks huge. They've got a picture of my house, and the house on the corner and the proposed house. And the proposed house appears in the drawing to go halfway into the backyard and appears to be way higher like the other house that was just built. So yeah, I'm concerned. I've lived there for 27 years and I garden extensively. And right now I look out at trees and I don't want to look at a wall. Really, that's my concern. And I don't understand how this drawing appears so much different than you just said, 1.5 feet longer into the backyard.
Yeah, then what's permitted? Maybe not what's there currently. We'll let Mr. Eagleman respond to your concern, but I'm just saying permitted length. They're going an extra 0.5 meter.
Okay. So no, yeah, I'm not pleased with this whole thing at all. I don't know what else to say. I'm definitely not for it.
Okay.
Right now, I bought my house with a view of the lake, with a deck view of the lake. And to have someone just come in and take that away, I can't agree with. There won't be any light in our backyard at all.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Does anyone have any questions for the speaker? And if not, since that's the last of the two speakers, we'll give it back over to Mr. Eagleman to respond to the concerns raised by the two neighbors.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. It appears that the concerns related to the proposal and that are within the purview of the committee are really the height and the length. As you have noted, Mr. Chair, the length variance we are seeking is only for 50 centimeters, and that is also only applicable to the ground floor. The second floor is compliant with the maximum permitted building length. And in regards to the height, the proposal is compliant with the overall maximum building height. We are just seeking a variance for the side exterior main walls, and that variance is in keeping with the character of the neighborhood, considering that there have been a number of previous approvals and builds within the neighborhood that have an exterior main wall height that is much larger than what we are proposing. There are some main wall height variances that are in the range of 9.5 and 10 meters within this neighborhood. There are some 3-story dwellings within this neighborhood. So we are in keeping with that character. And in regards to the view to the lake of Mrs. Waters, I do not really understand what view to the lake she is referring to, considering these properties are fairly set back from the lake, and there is quite a bit of vegetation between the lake and these properties. So through you, Mr. Chair, I respectfully submit that this application is in keeping with the character of the neighborhood and is sensitive to the adjacent neighbors.
Okay, thank you. Members, any questions for Mr. Eagleman? Or is someone ready to weigh in with the motion? Mr. Taylor.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Yeah, this is a case of the fact that we have to consider the extent of these variances related to what's permitted in the zoning bylaw. Undoubtedly, what's proposed is very different than what's built in this property right now. But we have to consider what the zoning bylaw allows. And these variances are very close to what is currently permitted. There's a north side lot line variance, but it's an improvement over what's there now. The other yards aren't being varied. There's no overall height change. A 50 centimeter additional length on the ground floor only. I find the application meets the 4 tests, and I move approval subject to urban forestry condition 1.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. I have a seconder for Mr. Taylor's motion.
Well, I can sympathize with the neighbor. I concur with Mr. Taylor's motion and second that motion.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you to the neighbors, and thank you, Mr. Eagleman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members. Have a good evening or afternoon.
Okay, our next applications, actually, we're going to hear two applications together. Items 21 and 22 are joined at the hip. It's 290 BIRMINGHAM Street for number 21, and for number 22, 350 Kipling Avenue. It's an application to construct a new air-supported structure affiliated with a sports field. This application is considered in conjunction with 350 and vice versa, mirror image. It's the same variance. It's a permitted height of a building is 15 meters. In this case, the new air support structure will have a height of 18.3 meters. So that's the one variance. We have a planning conditions of approval, identical on both with respect to an LC to secure landscape works. We have Metrolinx advisory comments on both applications. And we have a previous decision on the site in June 2010 and a landscape plan and landscape details. The applicant is Paul Gardner, agent for the applicant, and we have neighbors registered to speak from 119 22nd Street and from 363 Kipling Avenue. So let's start off with Mr. Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the Committee of Adjustment. My name is Paul Gardner, 95 Murrell Street in Richmond Hill. We are acting as the agent for our client, Field Recreational Inc. The purpose of today's meeting is to discuss our applications at 290 BIRMINGHAM and 350 Kipling Ave. The project involves an expansion of an existing air-supported structure on this site. We're proposing to increase the square meterage of the existing structure, air structure, from 5,578 meters squared to 7,525. That expansion has triggered the necessity for a Committee of Adjustment variance. To Mr. Chair's point, the bylaw allows 15 meters. We're proposing to have a height of 18.3, which I should point out is the exact same height as the existing structure that received a variance back in June 30th, 2010 under file A289/10EYK.
Okay, can we actually get up there the drawings, the landscape plan on the board so we can see that while Mr. Gardner's speaking? So this is basically just, you're just taking the approval, you're building a bigger structure, so ergo a bigger air supported structure that's going to be the same height that the current smaller one is.
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Okay, so I see we have two neighbors on the line, so perhaps we'll hear from them. I don't know if you want to continue and draw the committee's attention to anything else, but that is, guess, is basically your plan up on the, how much bigger, how much larger is it than the existing?
Approximately 2,000 square meters larger, which will serve the tenants much better. And some of those tenants include, obviously, the students from Lakeshore Collegiate Institute, Toronto High Park Football Club, the Etobicoke youth soccer groups. There's a Youth Unlimited, which is a sports and after-school programming for youth at risk that utilize this facility currently. MLSE uses it. Some of the Maple Leafs train in this facility in the off season. And there are numerous camp groups throughout Christmas, March break, and in the summer.
Okay, and just to the idea of it getting 2,000 feet or 2,000 meters bigger, what as a percentage, how much is it growing? A ballpark. I'm not looking for anything exact. Is it?
It's about third bigger.
Okay. Okay. Okay, those are my questions. Anyone else have any questions for Mr. Garden before we flip it over to hear what the neighbors have to say? And obviously you'll have a chance to respond. No questions at this point for Mr. Gardner? Okay, so next speaker is Jose Norrega at 119 22nd Street.
Hi, how are you?
Hello, sir.
I'm just, I mean, I don't understand very well the drawing, but it looks like it's a track, a running track that will be add there.
Sir, you're going to have to state what you want to say, and then Mr. Gardner will answer at the end. We're not answering. It's like a
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks. Please continue. So first of all, where do you live in relation to the property? I'm just trying to see it on the map. You're at 119th. I see where 19th Street. I just don't see where 119 is. Sorry, 22nd Street on the map. But anyway, you're in the vicinity. So let us know what your concerns are, and Mr. Gardner will respond.
Yeah, no, I just want to understand. I think I see the field from my backyard, and I bring my kids there to play soccer and stuff. I just want to see what's going to happen there.
They're making it bigger, around a third bigger.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Thank you.
You can stay on the line and listen it, but if you haven't, that's all you wanted to know. You're just
Well, will we cover, or will be like those metal?
We'll let Mr. Gardner respond.
Okay,
See
thank you.
questions, and he'll respond. Any other questions, sir?
No, that would be everything. Thank you very much.
Very good. So just stay on the line. The other neighbor is Chime Namigal at 363 Kipling Avenue.
Mr. Chair, sorry to interrupt. Mr. Kime Namigal won't be speaking, but we will provide a copy of the notice decision.
Okay. Okay, so send it back to Mr. Gardner to respond to what Mr. Norrega had to say. And he guess he wanted to know if it's covered or not.
Through the chair, there is an existing running track currently in place. Our plan will recreate a track, a brand new track with a synthetic surface, and that track will not be covered by the air supported structure.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to say in response to Mr. Norrega? Otherwise, I'll just see if committee members are ready to make a motion.
That's everything. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir. Members, someone ready for a motion? Mr. Taylor.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I see this as a nice improvement to an important community facility. And it meets the 4 tests under the Planning Act, and I move approval subject to the planning condition to secure the landscape works.
Thank you. Seconder for that, Ms. Alderson. Thank you. All in favor? Another unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Gardner.
Thank you very much. Have a good afternoon.
Okay, you too. Thank you, Mr. Norrega, if you're still on the line as well. Okay, the next application is item number 2370 13th Street. This is an application to construct a new covered front porch and a new rear deck. There are 2 variances. We have nothing whatsoever on file. Applicant or the speaker is Kagan Walsh, who appears to be the architect for the applicants.
Hi there. Thanks for having us, or me. Yeah, so
Sorry, before we proceed, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Have we decided, I'm fine with it, but have we decided on applications 21 and 22?
Yes, sorry, I assume they were doing it together because we called them together, and they basically had the same variance and the same thing. So I apologize for that. We should have.
You did state at the beginning they would be heard together.
Right. Okay. Great. Thank you, Mr. Taylor.
No
Okay.
problem.
Oh, yes, Mr. Walsh. So, yeah, very straightforward. We have 0 on file on this, not even urban forestry. So just like to give us a brief introduction. Again, this is, you normally see the new covered porch and the rear deck together with a new house in the middle.
Yeah.
We're just getting the bread and not the sandwich.
Right. So, yes, thank you for having me. My name is Kagan Walsh. I'm speaking on behalf of the homeowners at 70 13th Street. And like you mentioned, we have 2 variances. There is an existing house, and the homeowners are looking to add a covered front porch and a partially covered back deck. The situation that has brought us to the 2 variances is that there is an existing cold storage under the existing front porch. In drawing A3 for the architectural drawings, there you can see that this structure that exists, and basically they don't want to get rid of that, and so we are looking to build on top of that, and it's adding 10 centimeters basically to the height of the covered porch. So that said, we are looking to raise the structure slightly over the allowable 1.2 meters, typically for something like this, structure. And we then been told that we had to come to a committee of adjustment to get their approval for this. I hope that's clear. And
yep.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll see if the members have any questions for you or if someone's ready to weigh in with a motion.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. McCloskey?
So no questions, and if there's no others, I'm prepared to make a motion to approve. Consider this minor in nature, quite straightforward as well, and meets the 4 tests. I don't think there's any conditions.
Correct. Thank you. We have a seconder for that motion. Ms. Alderson, thank you. All in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Walsh.
Thank you.
Wonderful afternoon.
You too. Have a good day.
Okay, our next application is item number 24, 19 GRACEDALE Boulevard. It's for a 1-story rear addition with 2 variances with coverage and rear yard soft landscaping. And again, there is absolutely nothing on file in this application. The speaker is Nick Rotundo. Looked like he's agent for the owner. Hello, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and committee members. Yes, my name is Nick Rotundo, and I'm the agent for 19 GRACEDALE. What we are proposing is actually there's an existing sunroom with an existing foundation, and everything above the foundation has deteriorated. And so we are just going to rebuild it to the same size, same height, same openings, and basically it's just going to be a duplicate of what we have right now.
Okay. Very straightforward, and no one's commented on this. So let's see if committee members have any questions or if someone's ready for a motion.
Happy to put forward a motion if no one has any questions. I believe this application meets the 4 tests and is desirable, and move for approval with no conditions.
Thank you, Ms. Alderson. Seconder for that. Ms. Reddick, thank you. All in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Rotundo. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you.
Okay. Next application is item number 25. It's 33 Eagle Road. It's an application to construct a new detached dwelling, attached garage. And we have a revised highlighted in yellow sheet. There were 9 variances. There are now 6, and 3 of those have been revised. Urban Forestry is looking for conditions 1, 2, 3, and 5. We have an arborist report, 5 letters of support. We have a specific memo from Forestry. Planning is asking for a condition of approval to be built substantially in accordance with the site plan and elevation drawing based on the revisions, which they summarize in the report. And the speaker for this application is Marco Razzolini from Contempro Design on behalf of the applicant.
Mr. Chair, sorry, there's a second revision sheet in your additional materials. The revision for the floor space index was missed on the first one, but was included by the applicant. So if we can just show the one in the next tab.
Okay. I showed it was something that was revised. It was, oh, it's the revised. It's a further revised notice sheet.
Yeah, it's in your additional materials. So Daniel, if you go to the top, there's March, yeah.
Okay, so how is that different than the one that's in
the GFA just hadn't been switched to be reduced.
Okay, so that has been reduced.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, it did show the revision in item variance 2. Okay, so let's hear from the agent.
Yes, good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Marco Razzolini from 1140 the Queensway.
Okay, please, I think we can get a little presentation from you and I guess you're okay with the planning condition?
Yeah, so we're aware of the planning conditions. We had a lot of communication with the planner for the file, and we are okay with the recommendation. We also had a few discussions with the neighbors and then in the neighborhood as well, specifically the ones to the north. I think they sent in a letter of support, also echoing the recommendation from planning. So we are okay with planning's recommendation. We're also aware of Forestry's letter, and we're okay with the conditions that they have recommended.
Yeah, I was asking about the forestry. Seems a little confusing, but
yeah. So we are discussing it with the client as well as the arborist. So I think the conditions that they've outlined there are fine, as you know, in the situation that we get approved today.
Okay. Let's see if any of the members have any questions for you, or if someone's ready for a motion.
Just a quick question. Curiosity has no bearing on my thinking about this, but why do you need a 35-foot wide staircase in the back?
So this, you know what, I think that is left over from the previous concept. We had a full width covered porch, and there was stairs going down from that into the rear yard. That's since been reduced. So I don't know what the number is, or if that needs to be revised today, but it will be less. It will now be 16 feet. So 4.88 meters going down into the rear yard. And that's just the full width of the proposed covered deck.
Again, in my mind, it doesn't really have a bearing. And you may get approval for 10.06, and you're saying you're likely going to build it less. Narrower.
Definitely.
Okay. Well, I find the variances minor in nature. The other test, the Planning Act. I move approval of the revised application subject to urban forestry condition 1. Or sorry, 1, 2, and 3.
Right, and that's the further revised one in our.
Yes, the revised as revised.
Revised.
Yes, double revised.
I'm happy to second that motion, and by the way, I think it's a great design. So kudos to you guys.
Thank you.
All in favor? Another unanimous approval. Thank you, sir. Have a great.
Appreciate it. Good afternoon, guys.
Okay. Our next application is item number 2696 Stanley Avenue. It's to construct a one-story rear and west side addition that will include a large detached garage, a partial second-story addition, and a rear yard deck. And we have on this 3 variances, 11 letters of support, and nothing else. Urban Forestry is looking for condition number 1. The agent is Toivo Vahi for this application. And the next one to follow as well.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members committee. Once again, this we feel is a minor in what's required for the variances. If I just want to quickly address the variances, or do you have any questions?
Let's just see if anyone has any questions for you on this one. With your 11 letters of support, nothing whatsoever other than urban forestry. I assume you're okay with urban forestry condition number 1?
Yes.
Members, any questions for Mr. Vahi, or is someone ready for
just a quick one. Variance 1, I'm assuming that's a legal non-conforming situation.
Yeah, so the existing main wall currently is at 4.928 meters as a setback. And the as a result of the enlargement and the proximity to the sort of curving front yard street line, the setback will be reduced to 4.889 as submitted. So we're not changing anything in regards to the front wall, main front wall setback.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, or is someone ready to weigh in?
I'll weigh in, Mr. Chair. I'm satisfied the 3 variances meet the 4 tests under the Planning Act, and I move approval subject to urban forestry condition 1.
Okay, thank you. Seconder for that? Ms. McCloskey, thank you. All in favor? Another unanimous approval. Okay, Mr. Stickney, please It's not Mr. Stickney. Mr. Vahi, stay on the line. You're on the next application as well. Item number 27, 193 Islington Avenue. And it's an application for a second-story rear addition. There is only one variance. It's actually that the existing dwelling and proposed altered dwelling is not permitted in a C zone. So that's the extent of what's before us. We do have 4 letters of support and nothing else whatsoever. Nothing from community planning. And again, the agent is Toivo Vahi. Welcome back.
This property, it's legal non-conforming, as noted. The property adjacent to it on the south side and all the properties on the east side across the laneway are all zoned RM. The properties immediately to the north on Islington Avenue on the east side are all non-conforming residential. So there really is no change to the subject property other than that fact. And so we're proposing to do a small second-story addition on the existing footprint, and we require this variance.
Okay, you know, given that it's a lawful non-conforming use and any change requires permission, would we get beyond, let's say if there were other variances required, would it show up height, FSI, GFA, or is it once it's not permitted?
Well, yes, if I could address that, Mr. Chair, yeah. I spoke with the zoning examiner. That was my first questions. Is there any other, is there any other variances which would apply to setbacks? And when I was going through my research, I did find the Etobicoke bylaw 32080, which I thought might apply, which had some setback variances. It basically resorted back to the RM sort of designation, but being that's an old former Etobicoke bylaw, the zoning examiner actually said that no, that does not apply, that the 32080 applies, and that you can leave the reference material of what I have on the site schedule in regards to the existing setbacks, even though we're not changing anything, we're not changing the height, we're not changing anything as such, other than adding 30 square meters. So she said no, that you do not require anything else in this application.
Okay.
So once approved, this should be acceptable by the zoning.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you for that. Members, any further questions or someone ready to weigh in with a motion?
I think, Mr. Chair, this is a reasonable proposal. It's obviously a commercial zoned area that isn't commercial. But I find the application meets the 4 tests, and I move approval.
Thank you.
No conditions.
Okay, seconder for that. Ms. Alderson, thank you. All in favor? It's unanimous. You have your approval. Thank you, Mr. Vahi. We'll see you again.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee.
Okay. The next application is item number 28. That is 27 15th Street. It's to construct a 1-story rear addition, a new attached garage, and a 2nd-story addition above the existing dwelling. There are 3 variances. We have a previous Committee of Adjustment decision from January 27, 2022, a refusal. We have Urban Forestry requesting conditions 1 and 2, and we have letters of opposition from both adjacent neighbors at 29 and 25. We have 2 speakers registered, Alex Marrero, the agent for the applicant, as well as the neighbor at 29 15th Street. And welcome, sir. And I guess one the neighbors are going to want, and I'm sure the committee members, is to advise how this application differs from the one that was refused back in January. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and committee members. The application is different because we had 5 variances in January. By listening to the neighbors, we decided to reduce the variance that was the length of the building. So now the building doesn't require the length. That also reduced the overall GFA of the building as well from we are requesting to 0.78 instead of 0.83. And the second variance is the setback, which is actually existing. Is the existing building is setting at 0.48, so that's an existing variance. And the height of the wall, which is the only variance that we require, is because it's a flat roof. In the area, I could have the roof peak at 9.5 meters, but by designing it flat, we can match the buildings that are existing in the street, and it will look more in keeping with the neighborhood instead of putting a pitch roof and have a 9.5 meter height. So I feel like it's a very small application and a small variance for the area.
Okay, I just wanted to checking one thing. Your variance for the front exterior main wall height?
Yes, it's only for the height of the wall.
Yeah.
So not for the overall.
That's the same as it was last time? Front exterior main wall height?
Yes.
8.7, and on the
yes, that's the lowest I can make it.
Right. So that one is just hasn't changed. You've eliminated your other variance. You brought down your GFA from set 0.78 from 8382 to 0.78, right? Okay.
Correct.
So,
and I also eliminated the real balcony, which the neighbors were complaining for privacy. So the real balcony in the second floor was also eliminated as a variance.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Just wanted to summarize, get you to summarize. Would you like to add anything more, or else we'll see if anyone has any questions and we'll hear from the neighbors.
Go ahead.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant? No questions for Mr. Marrero? Okay. In that case, we'll hear from the neighbors. We only have one neighbor. We have the two letters, which you can perhaps get the neighbor's letter on the screen. I believe it's opposition letter 2. And we do have both neighbors who wrote in. We only have one neighbor speaking, Ange Rigas from 29 15th Street. Welcome, ma'am.
Hello.
Welcome. Hello.
Yes, hello. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay.
We're putting your letter up on the board while you're speaking. So the committee members are listening to you. Go ahead. You have 5 minutes to let us know what you want to say.
Okay. I disagree completely that this new plan varies significantly from the old one. These variances are not minor. It appears that the second floor, it says that it will only have a 1-story addition at the back, but that doesn't look like a 1-story addition to me on the drawings. It actually looks like a 2-story addition. And if you look at the layout on the second floor, there's no way they could fit that length of the total length onto a shorter overall length of the house on the second floor. So it doesn't look to me as though it's asking for a rear 1-story addition. It looks like a rear 2-story addition. The proposal is still way too high. They have not adjusted or lowered the height at all. It's once again, they're asking for a 28-foot high roof line, 8.7 meters, which is far above the zoning of 7 meters allowance. So they're asking for 6.5 feet over the existing zoning, which is no different from my objections the first time around, which will eliminate the eliminate the sunlight, not only going into my house, but into my yard. I am semi-retired. I am an avid gardener. I have spent 17 years cultivating my garden, and I'm just going to be plunged into living in a canyon. As I already pointed out, on the other side of me, on the north side of my house, is a triplex, which is a building which extends several feet past the overall length of my house, several meters actually. So I already have on my north side a giant brick wall that is a 3-story or 2-story triplex, and now I'm going to have a giant brick wall on my south side. So I will be sandwiched in between these two giant brick walls. I will lose the light in my house. The last time the applicant said they wanted 10-foot ceilings. This is outrageous. 10-foot ceiling on the first floor. They say 8-foot ceiling on the second floor. It looks to me like it'll be higher. So that overall height is just going to plunge me into a dark canyon, which I do not want to live in, and I should not have to live in. The rear addition at the back, please address that, because it looks to me as though it is a full second story at the rear addition. And why have you not lowered the height? Why can you not slope your ceiling for more sunlight and more light to come to my yard? And also, it is not in keeping with the rest of the street. There is one house close to the north end of the street with a flat roof. All the other houses on the street are older, more traditional builds, and they don't look like this. So that is I'm going to have a dark house. I'm going to have a dark yard. I'm going to sit in shade. I will not be able to grow my garden. My hedges will die. My vines, my roses, my herb bushes. And also me, myself, who likes to sit outside and enjoy the sun. And I'm at home, as I said. This to me is going to completely impair my lifestyle, the enjoyment of my home, and I believe also my property value when the time comes to sell, which I have no intention of selling. But when it comes time to sell, who's going to want to live in a small house that is sandwiched between two giant brick walls? So I'm asking once again for the committee to reject this proposal, send these people back to the drawing board, that they should build a house or redesign this house more in keeping with the character and the setting and the surroundings. I think they can do that. They absolutely can do that. They do not need to build a giant house, which is also the square footage. Okay, so the square footage, they've asked for 204, that's 204 square meters, and the zoning allows for 157. So in the first proposal that was rejected, they asked for 214 square meters. So they've only lowered their size request by a measly 10 square meters. So that's really not a significant difference. This is basically almost a carbon copy of the very first proposal. So those are my concerns. My light, my setting, living next to a giant brick wall, absolute darkness. My house will be cast into absolute darkness, and it's not in keeping with the character of the home of the homes in this on the small street. It's a very small street, 15th Street, and.
Okay, ma'am, I think you're a minute over already. So yeah, I think you got your point across.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Chair, I think the neighbor is correct. The applicant incorrectly identified the proposal. So the purpose should be to construct a 2-story rear addition.
Yeah, that was going to be my first question, that he should address that issue of how it's now a 1-story, as well as to address how he feels that the 10 square meter reduction constitutes something different. Again, he has eliminated 2 other variances, that is admitted. So do we have a notification issue?
The plans show it, and I think the description was like a 2nd story above the existing dwelling, but the 2nd story is over the existing and proposed.
Right, so I think
the purpose can be changed to say,
for the purpose of it, that it's a 2-story addition, a new attached garage, and a 2nd story addition above the existing. And the neighbors who were affected did write in. One of them is before us personally, so we can make that revision at the outset before we hear back from Mr. The applicant. Okay, so do we need a motion to revise that, or just?
No, as long as the members are aware that we could make that change.
Okay, it's now going to say to construct a 2-story, just rear addition, a new attached garage. So going back then, Mr. Marrero, If you could please respond to what the neighbor had to say, and giving, in my opinion, particular attention to how this application is substantially different from the other one that merits approval if the other one before the same committee was refused in January, given you eliminated 2 variances and took 10 square meters off your building.
Correct.
So please address those issues, please.
Yes, when I was in the original application in January, we had also a variance on the length of the building, which was completely eliminated. Regarding the height, we are not asking for an overall height variance. It's only the height of the main wall. The overall height of the house is still at 8.6 meters.
Okay, but just to stop right there. So the height is no different? Are you telling, just want to confirm, the height is no different than the previous application?
It is not, because that's the minimum that I can build it at. It's a flat roof, but it's lower than the 9.5 meters that the bylaw allow us to build in that area. If it was going to be a slope roof, it would be 9.5 meters. Now, the sun issue, the sun goes east to west, and my backyard is facing east. So the sun travels directly above the house. It's not going to affect the sunlight as much as the neighbor is mentioning, because the sun travels directly above the house from east to west.
Sir,
we are not doing north and south construction here. That I'm.
Irrespective of that, let's just look at the height. You just said something about 9 meters being permitted?
9.5 meters. If it was a slope roof with the trusses, the peak of the house would be 9.5 meters. Because this is a flat roof. Go ahead.
Yeah. So that's why there's a different performance standard for flat as opposed to slope roofs, right? So
correct. But
if it was a slope roof, it would be permitted, but it's a flat roof. So
I understand. And the reason why I put a flat roof is to match the houses that are to the north of us, which is the existing buildings in the street. So it will be in keep with the neighborhood and the streetscape.
Okay, but you agree with me?
And the variance is...
The bylaw has a different performance standard for flat as opposed to slope roofs. And what do you build?
Correct.
Slope roof. What do you build?
Because the houses on the north of us, the buildings that are existing in the street are already flat. So I'm basically matching the streetscape.
What is the height of your, are you building a flat roof?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's all I wanted to hear you say. Okay, please proceed. I'm sorry. I just wanted you to focus on those issues, that you have to let the committee know how it's different from the last application. And
well, I have 5 variances on the original application. As I say, we reduce the length, we remove the balcony in the back because the neighbors complain about it. We're looking at one of the variances, number 2, is an existing variance. I'm only looking for a little bit on the square footage and the height of the main wall, which again is only the main wall, it's not the overall of the house. So I'm still building it below what most houses are in the area.
Well, three of us were present at the last application. The other 2 aren't, but they'll have to decide whether this application is worthy of support, given the fact that you were refused back in January and what you were refused on. So please continue and wrap it up, and then we'll see if the committee members have any questions.
So basically, again, the only 2 variances that I'm looking is the floor space index to 0.78. It's incomparable to other approvals in the area. I have records of approvals up to 83%. Like in 16th Street, number 83 was approved by the committee at 83%. This one is 0.78. And the height of the wall, again, at 8.7 is not an overall height. And there are many houses in the area as well built at that height. Even the buildings next to me are at that height because they are 2 stories plus the half basement above the ground. So their total height will be no different than mine. And those are existing buildings. And that's about it. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Okay, so those properties on one side of you, are those those are flat roof height buildings?
Correct.
And they are the same height that you're proposing?
I didn't shoot the roof, but they look the same height or higher only because they have 2 stories plus the basement above ground. They're almost like 3-story high, right?
Okay. Okay, members, any questions for the applicant or for the neighbor? Or is someone ready to weigh in with the motion?
Well, Mr. Chair, I'm not satisfied with the response to your very good question. Why is this substantially different than what this panel refused on January the 27th? The way I look at it, it's 10 square meters smaller. which is insignificant. A 6.5 meter platform has been removed. I don't see that as being significant. And the building length has been reduced from 17.95 to what the bylaw permits, 17 or less. So I see this as virtually identical to what we looked at in January. And as we did then, I move refusal on the grounds that it doesn't meet any of the 4 tests.
Thank you, sir. Seconder for that motion? Ms. Reddick, thank you. You were actually one of the members present back in January. All in favor? The application is unanimously refused. Thank you, Mr. Marrero. I think you have to go back to the drawing board. And thank you for Ms. Rigas for your participation here today as well. Okay, so we can now move on to the next application, which is item number 29, 10 Emery Circle. And 10 Emery Circle is an application. We do have a revised notice page highlighted in yellow. It's to construct a 2-story east side addition, which will contain an attached garage and a 2nd-story rear addition. And there were 4 variances. There are now 3. The roof eaves projection has been removed. We have revised plans and waiver. And the only thing we have on this is TRCA advising that they have no objection. We have nothing else on this application. And the speaker is David Stickney. Welcome, Mr. Stickney.
Hello, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. It's David Stickney, 149 Lowther Avenue, Toronto, M5R 3M5. I believe that the existing property is 1956 house. It is backing onto a ravine with the public walkway to the ravine on the east side of the house. The proposal is to build on that side. And the variances, I would argue, are relatively insignificant. The house itself is on a mild skew to the property line. So the coverage, 1% is minor, but the other 2 variances relate specifically to the skew. I mean, the original house had a 1.2 meter setback at the front, and as it approached the back corner of the garage, which we're building on top, we go to 1.11 as a setback. And because, again, the skew, extending the front wall across, the front yard variance minimum changes by 0.13 meters.
These are basically existing conditions that you found yourself subject to and going ahead with this addition.
Correct.
So, okay, so let's just see if anyone has any questions for you.
I just have a question for clarification. When I read the TRCA memo, it still sounds like they need an application. Is that correct?
The application has been made.
Okay.
But they have no objection to the variance.
I saw that, but they did mention an application needed to be made. Yeah. So I don't know. That's what I remember reading. But in any event, I have no problems with putting forward a motion unless someone has any questions. For approval, I believe this meets the 4 tests, fully landscape property. So I think you guys will do a great job. So yes, we'll move for approval with no conditions based on the revised drawings.
And revised notice, yeah.
Revised notice. I think it eliminated number 4.
Okay, seconded for Ms. Alderson's motion. Ms. McCluskey, all in favor? Unanimous approval.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee members.
Thank you. Okay, the next application is item number 30, 2672 Bloor Street West. This is an application by the TTC to construct 2 new above and below grade station elevators that will be located along the north and south sides. And this addition will accommodate the existing subway station. There are 2 variances, and we have a copy of a city council item dealing with this matter, a TTC cover letter, an applicant's presentation, as well as an arborist report, and an email from a heritage planner. And Urban Forestry is looking for conditions 1 and 2. The speaker is Hadi Jafari with the TTC. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Hadi Jafari. I'm representing TTC. Just give you a brief description of the project is that according to Ontario legislation, AODA Act, all public spaces have to be upgraded for accessibility by a mandate date of 2025. And TTC is also upgrading most of the stations and the public buildings. So far, 49 stations have been brought up to the code, and Old Mill Station, which is the subject application, is slated for 2024 to be accessible for public use. It is a simple application. We are adding 2 elevators to provide accommodation from street level to the platform level. If you can scroll down to the layout, I would be able to speak to that. And next page, please. Yes, that's it. So we are adding elevator E1 and E2. E1 is the north side of the station. It's going to accommodate the westbound platform, and elevator E2 is going to accommodate the eastbound platform. Due to limitation of the subway infrastructure and the way the tunnel is and the way the platform level is located, this design option have been exhausted to provide the best option and optimum option for locating these elevators. As such, the current application is in front of you. The building is a 1-story building, and it has been almost built to the maximum capacity that it had at the time. So by building those 2 elevators, we had to surpass the property line due to the standard for the accessible elevators. As such, our property planning development group made a request through the corporate real estate division of the City of Toronto, and as such, City Council has approved stage 1 of expropriation on February the 2nd. And negotiation and talks have been initiated with the respective neighbors of the North 39 Old Mill and the South 2662 Bloor Street West, and in a very amicable way. I'd like to draw the committee's attention to the minor variances. We are asking for 2 side setbacks for the north and south and 1 rear yard setback. These minor variances have been requested according to the proposed property line that is going to be added to the property according to the council's item.
Yeah, I think, sir, I don't think you need to go any further. I think we've heard what we need to know. In terms of this, we have the back of the report before City Council, and thank you for your presentation materials. The rendering is absolutely beautiful. And let's see if anyone has any further questions for you, or if someone's ready to weigh in with a motion.
Mr. Chair, I would like to add one more comment, if I may.
Okay, with urban forestry conditions, but yes, you should let us know that as well.
Yes. Actually, my comment is regarding the urban forestry comment. Okay. So the urban forestry colleagues rightfully recommended condition 1 and 2 on our application. However, the condition number 1 is not applicable to our project because there's no city-owned tree affected because of these application. At the time, we didn't have the arborist report. I couldn't make that to the deadline. Should the committee include that in the decision, we would be happy to accommodate the urban forestry with clarification on condition 1 as well. Thank you.
So you're only saying that only 2 is applicable, or 1?
2 is applicable. There are a number of private trees that I think there are in total 4 trees that are going to be removed, and 1 tree is going to be injured. on private property, which we've already started the arborist report, and we are going to make that application in the coming weeks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jafari. Anyone have any questions, or if someone ready to weigh in with a motion on these two minor variances? Mr. Taylor.
Yes, Mr. Chair, this is a very important response to the Ontario Disabilities Act, and I commend it. I appreciate the property size constraints that result in these variances. My inclination will be to move approval on grounds that it meets the 4 tests, and I'm going to recommend that we move all in connection with that approval urban forestry conditions 1 and 2, even though the agent proclaims, probably truthfully, that urban forestry condition number 1 is not necessary. He can sort that out with urban forestry, I'm sure, but I'm just not inclined to leave it out.
Or in the abundance of caution.
Out of an abundance of caution, yes, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
So, move approval, urban forestry 1 and 2.
Thank you, Mr.
Happy
Taylor.
to support that. I'll
Thank you.
second that motion.
Perfect. All in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Jafari.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and members of the committee.
You must be a really busy guy. You must be a busy guy.
Thank you so much.
Okay, keep up the good work. Number 31 is 10 STEVENHARRIS Drive, and it's an application to widen the existing driveway with 4 variances. Transportation is basically given what I would consider advisory and not a condition. Would Madam Secretary Treasurer, would you agree? And other than that, we don't have anything on this application, at least I could see. And the applicant or the speaker is Daniel Falzone, agent for the applicant.
Yes, it was just for information purposes.
Okay, so we have nothing. We have 4 variances. We have no conditions, no comments from anyone. So this should be relatively short. And it looks like we do have. Oh no, someone put up item number 32.
My apologies,
okay,
Mr. Chair.
Excellent. Okay, item number 31. So it will be quick, but at least we should leave it up. Daniel Falzone.
Yes. Good evening. Good
afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chair. My name is Daniel Falzone. I'm here on behalf of the owners, 10 STEVENHARRIS. As you know, we're seeking relief from 4 bylaws. As you also know, there's no objections. There was the advisory, which we acknowledge. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
What's the purpose of such a wide driveway?
To fit a second car.
Okay. Thank you. Members, any questions from Mr. Falzone or someone ready for a motion?
Ready for motion if there's no questions.
Sure, go ahead, Ms. Reddick.
Motion to approve this application. I find it to be minor in nature and consistent with the 4 tests, and there are no conditions.
Okay, thank you. Seconder for that motion? Ms. Alderson, thank you. All in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you, sir. And thank you. Item number 32 is 76 Haverson Boulevard. Now we can get it up on the board. We have a revised notice page. There were 2 variances for a new detached dwelling with an attached garage. Both of them have been, well, they're both identical. They're front and rear exterior main wall heights, respectively front and rear. Each have been reduced from 9.54 to 9.45. I don't know if that was just a typo or they actually made a substantive change. Perhaps we'll find out about that. And the one speaker is Lee Zhang, agent for the applicant. Is Lee Zhang there? And we do have on this, we do have an applicant's revisions, presentation, cover letter, and photos, as well as Metrolinx advisory comments. And like I said, both of them have been reduced slightly. Do we have staff? Do we have Ms. Lee Zhang on the phone from Archie Zoning Design, Inc.?
Mr. Chair, I can see that he's here, although doesn't seem like he's speaking at the moment. Mr. Zhang?
Perhaps yes.
Maybe, Mr. Chair, we can move on and come back to it. I'll try to get a hold of him or her.
Okay. Okay, so let's hold that one and we'll move over to item number 33. I think it's our only consent to sever with associated variances before us. It's the first one today. 11 BELLMAN Avenue.
Mr. Zhang's not there.
Mr. Zing's back. Hello? Hello? Staff?
Sorry, Mr. Chair. My apologies. I left the mic on. Go ahead.
Okay, so we're not with Mr. Zhang. We're going on to item number 33.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, item number 33 is 11 BELLMAN Avenue. It's an application for consent to sever the property into two residential lots, and on each such lot, are created to construct a new detached dwelling, one detached garage, each with 3 variances, including lot frontage, as well as there's a small part to be conveyed to the city for road widening. We have Urban Forestry looking for conditions 2, 3, and 5. We have, this matter was deferred from February 10th, 2022. So we have the minutes and the package from that application, at which time it was deferred. We have the draft art plan. We have the other materials, including the engineering construction services. And the speaker is Alex Savanu from Boothfields, as well as a neighbor from 298 Rimmelton Avenue, registered to speak. So we'll first hear from the agent.
Hello, Alex.
Maybe we lost everybody, not just Mr. Zhang from the last hearing, the last application.
Michael, can you hear us?
Yes, you can. The other members are nodding too. So we couldn't get Mr. Zhang, and now we're having problems with Alex.
Can you unmute like another person? Just like someone.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. Hi, Mike. Can you hear us, Mike?
It's connected. Yeah, maybe Jonathan.
Hi, Angelica.
Angelica.
Can you speak to us?
Hello?
Okay, so that's, Mr. Chair, that's a staff member who's able to speak, and we can hear her.
Okay, so now, just coincidental, we didn't reach Mr. Zhang, and now we're having problems with on this one. So Alex Savanu is not on the line. How about Aziza Mohammed, the neighbor?
There is, through Mr. Chair, there's no contact information. It doesn't look like he's a parent for the meeting.
Yeah, Aziza isn't on the line, but they will receive a copy of the notice of decision. We haven't been able to reach them.
Okay, but you still got to get Alex and Mr. Zhang from the previous hearing, right?
Yes.
Previous application, rather. So are we in a problem, or just these two, and we should move on to try item number 34?
Maybe let's go to number 34, and then we'll see if we can come back. But Alex, I'm not sure if you can hear us, but if you can hear us, it might be an issue on your end. So if you can try calling in, maybe while we hear item 34.
Okay, so item number 34 is 11 Loyalist Road. It's to construct a rear covered deck, and there are 2 variances. We have Mexerlin's advisory, forestry. Planning is looking for a condition of approval. It would be built substantially in accordance with the site plan with respect to the landscaping, and urban forestry is looking for condition number 2. And this matter was deferred from November 30th, 2021 hearing. The speaker on this application is Nalia Thayab Haran. Nalia?
Yes, this is Nalia Thabran of Land and Building
I'm so
Experts.
happy to hear you, because I thought the last 2 people we weren't able to reach. So you're with Land and Building Experts.
That's correct, sir.
Okay, sir. So you're the only party on this. If you can, I don't think we need a presentation. Is there anything you'd like to advise the committee members of?
We have revised, as it's mentioned in the report from the city, so we have revised this one to make, we are adding more trees as well, to make it more compatible.
Yes, so they pointed out that in their report that although the lot coverage would be among the highest in the neighborhood, the massing of the house isn't changing, and with the rear cut, without the rear covered deck, the lot coverage would be approximately 28% below the coverage permitted of 33. So that's they explained the process of what went on here. So let's see if anyone has any questions or if someone's ready to weigh in with a motion in view of the, and you're okay with the planning condition.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Committee members, is someone ready for a motion, or does anyone have any questions? Mr. Taylor.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I find this application to be fairly straightforward. Meets the 4 tests under the Planning Act. I move approval subject to the community planning condition and urban forestry condition number 2.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Seconded for that? There was seconded for that motion. Ms. McCluskey, thank you. All in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you. Thank you, Nelia.
Thank you, sir. Thank you all. Thank you
Okay.
all. Thank you.
Okay, our next application is item number 35, which was deferred from November 30th, 2021 hearing as well, 27 Sunnyley Avenue. And it's an application for additions, particularly. Here we go. It's a 2nd-story addition above the existing dwelling and to maintain the rear 2-story addition. There are 8 variances. We have supplementary material. We have urban forestry looking for condition number 2. We have the additional materials minutes from the last hearing in November. And then we have from planning a recommendation that the application be refused. They go through the revisions from the previous hearing as well. We have the materials from the previous hearing. The speaker on this application is David Stickney, agent for the applicant. Welcome back, Mr. Stickney.
Well, Mr. Chairman, again, members of the committee.
Yeah, perhaps we should get your
149 Lowther Avenue, Toronto, M5R3M5.
Okay, so this application was before the committee back in November. It was deferred. Planning is recommending it be refused. Can you just, what's happened in the interim since the deferral? Why was it deferred? If you can please give us a little bit of a summary.
Sure. The previous proposal, the client actually wanted to add masonry to the front wall, which there are permitted conditions in the bylaw to do, but that in doing so, with the addition at the back, it modified the length of the building to a non-compliance. It was 17 meters, it's 17.23 with the masonry and the insulation to the front wall. So that was the reason for the deferral, was to include the variance. What that's done in terms of the variances, that it puts us closer to the front lot line by 0.01 of a meter, and it takes us to a length that's 0.23 longer, 17.23 instead of the 17 meters. So I would just want to clarify that the side yard variances are existing conditions. The entire street is houses that have been built with a walkway on one side, which is the large setback, and the garage on the other side, which in most cases has a 10-inch or 12-inch setback. So what we're proposing to do is to go straight up. The house that's immediately to the east is exactly that. It's a 2-story house on the existing walls completely. So the setbacks have been existing, and we're just extending those numbers. The in terms of the height, the house to the east has the 7.5 maximum wall height, even though it's got a sloped roof. What we're proposing is that with a flat roof is that the walls would be approximately, I mean, we're off by a few feet to the wall height, but we are stepping down because the house to the west is a one-story house at the moment, and it's a nice gradual transition of height. It's not too high, not too low, kind of in relation to its neighbors. I should focus on issues of coverage and floor space, because that's the notation in the planning report. We did look at properties for a total of 500 meters around, related specifically to committee decisions, because very hard to get information at the moment on houses that were built before that are larger. But the point being that out of the decisions recently from the committee, there are 4 decisions which are greater than what we're asking for, and they are within 320 meters, sorry, of the subject property. And so we just took a circle from the existing, and the table that I submitted in the material indicates that, and there's one error that I really want to point out, is that it should read, instead of 16 Sunny Lee at 0.71, it should read 11 South Kingsley. And I don't know why that the 16 Sunny Lee is a 0.6 times coverage, but the 11 South Kingsley is 0.71. 2 weeks ago, 42 Kirk Braddon was approved at 0.69. The oddity is that our planning area includes all of these. Neither of the 11 South Kingsley nor the Kirk Braddon had concerns from the planning department, and they're not only greater percentages than what we're proposing, they're actually much larger houses because their lots are bigger.
So you're basically saying it's not the same. They're bigger lots, so the number, anyway, just please continue, I guess. I don't know, you're running out of, I think, have you gone over? I see the clock's at 0. Mr. Stickney, I guess that, thanks for that explanation. I'm not sure how long, if you want to continue for another minute or so, because I'm not sure the clock was working.
I would only like to say that we talked extensively to all the neighbors, specifically the neighbors to both sides, and that the reductions that we made from the previous, we brought the floor area down, and that's done at the second floor level at the back, so that there's a greater sunlight penetration for a longer period of time on each side for both neighbors.
Okay, thank you. Can you put up the planning letter, the one dated March, the new one? So they point out, they go through the changes. So I guess it's up to committee to figure out here while you've been speaking. They gave a refusal report November 21st hearing. You asked for deferral. Because of that, you made changes. That's wonderful. They've approximated the change in those bullet points that I've asked to be put out. They've approximated what you've done. And I guess bottom line, they don't feel that with you took 0.03 off the lot area, your lot coverage actually went up slightly. You took off the building length went up, and the second floor flat wall variance came down. So there's what they read between the lines. They're saying this didn't do enough. It's basically the same, not significantly, as we heard from an earlier application this afternoon. It's not substantial enough different from what you had before us. People, for some reason, maybe because of time delays, don't seem to be wanting to go to TLAB, but just coming back with starting a new application and making changes and hoping the committee thinks that those conditions are substantially different enough from the previous application, which the committee either refused, or in this case, we're not talking about a refusal, but just the negative staff report. So committee members, any questions for Mr. Stickney in terms of, I guess it's up to the committee to decide if whether it's substantial enough, whether the planning report was right the first time, and whether it's right this time. So does anyone have any questions? I guess first of all for Mr. Stickney. And then secondly, what's, ready for a motion, I guess. In fairness, we don't seem to have any neighbors weighing in on this matter, either this time or perhaps even last time. Were there neighbors present last time, staff? Looking at the materials from the previous hearing, but
Sorry, Mr. Chair, give me one moment.
yeah.
Chairman,
No,
we
no.
have six letters
No
of
one was
support.
present.
Okay, so committee members, I guess it's in your hands to, those are the minutes, I guess, you have up. I can't see what's up on the screen. So I guess, some of that's basically what we're being asked, whether community planning position was right the first and or the second time. Changes have been made, and we don't seem to have neighbors, including the most affected neighbors, weighing in opposition to this. So that's where we have it.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
are we ready for a motion?
Yes. That's what I've been waiting for.
Okay, personally, I don't find the lot coverage or FSI variances are problematic. I find all the variances to be in keeping with the 4 tests. And I move approval subject to urban forestry condition 2.
Okay, thank you. There's a seconder for that motion. Ms. McCluskey? Okay, all in favor? Okay, the motion carries 4-1 with Ms. Ruddick in dissent. And thank you, Mr. Stickney, on that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee.
Okay. Staff,
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, sorry to interrupt. I believe for item 33, the agent has fixed the audio issue, so if we could go back to that.
Yep. Okay, I was just asking that. Okay, so we have Alex Sabanu from Bruce Fields with us on this application. I can do a brief introduction again. There's a
Can you hear me? Sorry.
Yes, we can, sir.
Oh, perfect. Sorry, go ahead, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so we don't have a neighbor present. We have a neighbor on the speaker sheet, I'm told. And again, just to summarize, before we couldn't, I've already summarized this. It's consent to sever and to 2 undersized residential lots. Slightly, it looks like there's 3 variances on each, including lot frontage, and it's for 2 new detached dwellings. We also have a part lot conveyed to the city for road widening. And we have urban forestry looking for conditions 2, 3, and 5. This matter was deferred from the February 10th, 2022 hearing. That's all I have, sir. So I'll put it into your court to make a presentation should you desire.
Just a point of clarification. Are these undersized lots or regular sized lots? Because I believe in the notice it said regular sized lots.
They would be regular size. We have no lot size or lot area variances. We do have a frontage variance. And if we can pull up, if it's possible, the presentation I submitted, I could help explain some of this, if that's possible, please.
Thank you.
Yeah, there are 3 variances, FSI, the FSI 0.64, the lot frontage, a meter deficient only, and the height, the less than half a meter. That's what's before us.
Correct.
We don't have a planning report on this one, right?
You do, I believe. One that was submitted in February.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if you like, Mr. Chair, I can.
They're recommending reducing or refusing.
Okay, so that was a previous report that has not been changed from the time of the last hearing. Okay, could we perhaps get, okay, well, we'll put on the presentation on the board, and perhaps we can look at that letter later after the presentation.
Sure.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, committee members. Again, I'm Alex Saviu, an associate and planner with Bowes Fields. We did submit a planning rationale letter outlining the appropriateness of the variance and how the appropriateness of the severance and how the variances meet the 4 tests in the Planning Act. Just a little bit of a background. So The application was deferred on February 10th, and that was simply because of an error in the public notice. So there have been no changes since then. And just a further background, we have had ample work with planning staff on this application. So we submitted it about a year ago. We met with staff. We removed several variances, including removing the third story of the building and significantly reducing the FSI. I think it was 0.82 to 0.64. So since then, we've continued kind of talking with planning and committee staff. And in that February report from planning, perhaps it was late January, they did advise that they wanted the density variance reduced from 0.64 to 0.59. We are on board with that. We've since submitted updated plans to the committee to reflect that 0.59 number. And we were told by committee staff and planning staff that we were able to, I suppose, request that your decision reflects a 0.59, and I'd like to formally make that request, please.
Okay, so you want us to revise on the fly variance to both applications from 0.64 to 0.59, result in a lot area, sir, we're looking for the number there, in between more than 186 and less than 297. You need to provide that number.
Sorry, the lot area. Sorry, the lot area wouldn't change. It's just we're just making the building smaller so that we comply with the 0.59 FSI. So
Yes.
the exact square footage, I don't know those off the top of my head. But
we're gonna have to figure that out if you want to get this out of the committee to approve it. We have to know what 0.59 translates to in meters squared. So I'm sure you can figure that.
When did you submit revisions? Because if you were submitting revisions, you should have done them before we sent out revised notice for your new hearing.
yeah, well, we made the revisions prior to the February 10th meeting, and we did submit them after the public notice was sent out for the February 10th meeting. Again, we were told that since we're decreasing the variances, we didn't really need an updated public notice. And I had the same kind of question saying that, well, now that we had to defer and we're going on March 24th, do we need to update the public notice? And the answer was, well, it would be great if we were able to get a new zoning notice in time, but we couldn't. So it was a similar direction that we're able to make the request on the floor for the 0.59. And no worries, I can look into what that number would be. So I'm able to do that.
The chair announces at the beginning that if you had submitted your revisions with the zoning, then it would have been included, but you haven't provided all of that, which is why the committee doesn't have any revised information. You can't expect us to be able to accommodate revisions without knowing what the figures are.
Well, we did submit the plans to reflect that. And
But what about the zoning? We can't just accept plans without the applicable zoning.
We were specifically told that wasn't a requirement. Like I had the same kind of question. We were told that we didn't need that zoning review, that updated zoning review, in order to make this request to the 0.59. Specifically, again, I understand what you're saying, but again, this was the direction we were given from committee staff and planning, and I believe it was discussed with some other folks, and like I have the emails to confirm that, but
we're in the middle
again,
of
this is what we were told
here, so I don't know what you were told. We're also with Bousfields. You're not like a homeowner doing this on your own, so I'm surprised that you don't. This matter was deferred back from February, so you did have some time in terms of getting this back on for whatever reason. We don't have the revised plans, and by making a change on the fly without plans to support it, as the
no, the plans have been submitted. Sorry, the plans have been submitted. The plans are on the AIC. We did submit them. The issue, I guess, here is that we don't have a zoning review to corroborate that 0.59 number that is referenced on our revised plans. We have submitted the revised plans. We did that in February.
Ms. Bartosik, do we have the revised plans?
The only plans I can see were dated November.
Yeah, so he made them to planning, but not to the committee. It didn't. So I think we're going to have to adjourn this. This madam's gonna
No,
have to.
they're on the AIC. We submitted them. They are there. We submitted them to the committee. It was confirmed that it was accepted. It wasn't just to planning. I understand what you're saying, but I mean, they are there. I believe that they are on the AIC furthermore.
They're not in the committee members' packages though, sir. Anyway, staff, members, is this matter gonna have to be, if we're gonna have to defer it, we might as well go ahead and defer it. You didn't even have the I'm readily calculable, but at 0.59, you don't even know how many square meters that was coming here the day of the hearing to make a change on the fly. If we had every application being changed on the fly, it wouldn't be very good. So that's why that's what's part of our initial speech, to say that revisions may not be accepted at the hearing. Madam Bertosic, what do you suggest be done here?
I mean, it's up to the committee. I don't have anything recent in the file. I've checked. The plans were submitted in November.
Sorry,
Okay, and
sorry.
they don't reflect.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm also.
Sir, can you just wait till we can conclude our discussion? Thank you. Do we have the plan showing the 0.59?
I was just about to say, sorry, Mr. Chair, that I'm on the AIC as well, and I don't see any plans that were from February. So.
Okay. Sorry, Paul. I thought you were perhaps, I thought you were Alex interrupting. Okay, that's fine. So, Mr. Sereng, I think we're going to have to, I'll see what the committee members, if they feel comfortable, which we don't even know the square meter number yet, whether they're comfortable proceeding or not. That's ultimately what it comes down to. Someone want to weigh in from the panel?
And I don't feel like we have the information necessary to make decisions, so I prepare a motion that we adjourn so we can get the revised plan and the information needed.
Does anyone else want to weigh in on that? Anyone else feel similarly or differently?
Yeah, I don't feel comfortable. We have the accurate information that we need to make an informed decision today.
Okay, so I'll take that as a motion to defer from Ms. Ruddick, seconded by Mr. Taylor. All in favor? Matter is unanimously deferred. We'll see you again here, Mr. Savanu.
Okay, just to be clear, that is in order to submit revised plans and revised zoning reviews to reflect the reduction in variances.
In variance number 2, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. What about
Excuse me,
number
Mr.
32?
Chair. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
It seems for item 32, we have the agent who corrected their audio issues as well, so we can go back to that if you please.
Wonderful. Okay, so this is item 32, 76 Haverson Boulevard, to construct a new detached dwelling with an attached garage. Only 2 variances, which are basically the same, the exterior main wall height, front and rear, and both have been reduced from 9.54 to 9.45, whether it's a typo fixing it or actual substantive change. We'll find out from the agent. The agent is Lee Zhang from Archi Zoning Design. Welcome.
Hi, thanks to the committee, thanks, Chairman.
Yeah, and we have actually, I want to just hang on, sir. We have an applicant's presentation, a cover letter, and photos, as well as Metrolinx advisory. And I just wanted to point out this is an excellent presentation. It's very simple, easy to read, easy to follow. There were 2 presentations I wanted to make mention of at the hearing today that they were really well done. So you did a very nice presentation, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, so now that we have you on audio, so you're the only speaker on this application. So was that correction either just the typographical, or did you actually bring down your wall height by 0.09?
Yes, actually, the homeowner hired me to do this job. So the original building permit issued, the top plate is 8.5 meter high, but the setback on the side yard is only 4 feet. So the homeowner want to reduce the overhang, which is 14 inch. So I have to build the parapet wall to close the truss. I loaded the full height of the truss. I tried my best to close to the 8.5 meter. So For now, for the grading to the top of the parapet wall is a little higher than the zoning's request. That's the reason we go to the variance.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, the plans are the same. I think the applicant made a mistake on the original waiver, so they submitted a new waiver to fix
Right.
the variances, but the plans didn't change.
Okay, very good. So thank you very much, Mr. Zing. Let me just see. I don't think we need a presentation. Let's see if committee members have any questions for you or if someone's ready to make a motion, okay?
Thank you.
We only have the one variance front, well, the two variances, front and back. Any questions, or is someone ready to weigh in with a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'm prepared to make a motion. I feel that this meets the four tests, minor in nature, and no significant issues with this application.
Okay, thank you very much. Motion by Ms. McCloskey, seconded by Mr. Taylor.
Mr. Chair, I believe urban forestry condition 3 needs to be added.
Yes, you're correct. Friendly amendment?
I'll second it on a friendly amendment basis. Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, all in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Zhang. And thank you. Very nice, very well presentation.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, member.
Thank you. Item number 36 is, I think that's where we are. Just to clarify, I didn't miss anything. Item number 36 was deferred from the January 27th hearing. It's 57 Lacey Avenue. And 57 Lacey is an application to construct a new rear detached garage. There are 5 variances. This was deferred to revise the variances due to a discrepancy with the survey. And all we have is the material from the previous hearing. Urban Forestry is looking for condition number 1. And the speaker for this application is
Good afternoon. My name is Andrew Minsky from
Andrew.
Yes.
Help me because I wouldn't have pronounced it right anyway. So thanks for jumping in.
No problem. Thank you.
Okay. Very straightforward application. Why don't you just give us a little, this is a rear detached garage.
It is. So it's a corner lot. It's a very irregular shape and it's also steep. So there's a limit to where we can place this new garage. We had gone in with a previous larger garage in January, but through consultation with the planning, we reduced the size down from 21% to 17%. Now, items 1, 2, 3, and 4 are mostly due to the size, the irregularly shaped lot, and the slope.
Okay.
So item 1, there's a pinch point at the rear of the house for the new driveway. So it requires 2 meters, but because of the lot line, it's 1.39. Item number 2, because of the slope of the property. Right, so at that back corner of the house, the 1.39 setback from the lot line.
That's variance number 5.
Number 1.
I think you have to go by the, you're going by the zoning notice or the committee of adjustment notice?
Zoning notice.
Yeah, we go by the other numbers. That's why I wasn't following you.
Okay,
So,
sorry.
yeah, we have variance 1 is the coverage, and variance 5 is the width of the driveway. But I'm sure we're able to follow along. So why don't we just see if committee members have any questions? Again, there's no comments from, you're okay, I take it, with the urban forestry condition?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Do me a favor. Get my insulin down.
Does someone want to, so does anyone have any questions for the agent, or is someone ready for a motion on this?
I don't have any questions. I'm prepared to make a motion if no one else has any questions.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. Reddick.
Motion to approve this application. I find it to be minor in nature and consistent with the 4 tests, subject to urban forestry condition number 1.
Okay, thank you. Anyone seconder for that motion? Ms. Alderson, thank you. All in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Minsky.
Thank you for your time.
Okay. Item number 37 is again deferred from the February 23rd, 2022 due to incorrect public notice, it appears. Oh, that's the one where we have to, sorry, I have to close and go to, this was not in our agenda package, members. It was sent to us separately, so we have to open that up. This is an application to construct a new detached dwelling with a secondary suite, a rear second-story platform, and a front yard parking pad. We have the presentation materials, transportation. It looks like we have support from from another one from 42 people and 64. Is that over 108 letters of support? And we have the materials from the previous hearing. The speaker on this is Craig Race. And we have as well a neighbor, or that's just the owner of the property, sorry. I guess Nancy Leon, I guess, is one of the co-owners, so she will not be speaking. So we don't have anyone here with concerns or an opposition on this application. We do have planning, though, requesting, suggesting that the application be refused. So let's hear from Craig Race.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. I have presentation material if you would like me to walk the committee through it.
Yes, please. And perhaps we can get staff to put that up on the board while you're walking through that. Do you really have 108 letters of support?
I believe it's over 110, not to correct the chair.
Okay, let's not.
The clients are extremely engaged in the community.
Yeah. 108, 110, sort of the same.
What's the difference, right?
Okay, sir, why don't you just walk us through your materials in light of, and, you know, pay particular attention to the countering the suggestion by community planning.
Yes, sir. The application, as you're likely aware, is for a new home on an existing empty lot. Well, it's not empty, it has a garage on it. The owners actually live in the house next door, which is just on the left edge of these two images on the front. They revitalized the house they currently live in, and now they're hoping to construct a new home on the adjacent property. If you could go to the next page, please. There's a good sort of aerial diagram illustrating that several design gestures were done in order to have the house fit with the adjacent context, specifically stepping in the third floor. You'll note there is no height variance or main wall height variance. This is an as of right height. But we pushed in the third floor in order to keep a two-story massing on the streetscape, which is more prevalent. And there is car parking on the site. We notched in the ground floor wall to accommodate a carport. However, there's still a parking variance because the parking spot is not entirely beyond the front wall of the house. Next page, please. You're also likely aware this site is right on the edge of a transition zone in the neighborhood. The majority of homes to the north and east are 2 to 3 stories. Although there is an apartment building kitty corner to the back of this lot. However, across the street are rail tracks and several high-rise towers, so it really is a unique mix of development. Next page, please. The lot plan for the area really illustrates this. There are very large lots and very small lots in the area. This lot is one of the smallest lots, which is why planning has some concerns. However, in my professional opinion, the application does pass the 4 tests, and those physical gestures we've done allows the massing and siting to really blend with the prevailing scale and open space of the street. And we've conformed with the zoning bylaws as much as possible. There are 2 variances for frontage and lot area that we are not in control of. This is an existing lot. I'm happy to speak to the variances on the next 2 pages in isolation if you have questions, but I'll bring your attention to the FSI, which is, I believe, the subsequent page. So this is not the highest FSI in the area. It's on the next page. There is a house with 0.97 times coverage directly across the street at 100 Rosemount. And it's worth noting the house itself is very modest. If you go to the next page, this is only a 2,000 square foot house. We did a quick study of 60 houses in immediate proximity, and over 80% of the adjacent houses are larger than this. So it is a small house on a small lot, and the FSI is such because of that. And finally, planning was not the only group we consulted with. We had multiple meetings with the councillor, the local historic society, and as you noted, Mr. Chair, there are over 110 letters of support from adjacent properties. So we really did our best to take all the feedback we could from all the stakeholders and mediate the differences between the bylaws, the official plan, and the needs of planning.
Thank you, Mr. Race.
Thank you, sir.
I have a question for you. So if you read the planning report, it appears that, can you just confirm that no one was aware of the first two variants of the lot frontage and lot area, sort of like on a consent application when they're creating a substandard lot, you see those as variances, but so did they not realize that it wasn't one of the variances when we were back here in February?
Zoning staff had not identified it on our first two zoning notices, so we weren't aware of it either. We did not think it was going to need to be a variance because of the existing lot, but for some reason, staff determined that it had to be added for our third notice.
Yes. Okay, so you know, when you read this letter, they summarize the changes you made. And then they go on to say, well, it was an improvement, but it's not quite enough. And they seem to say it's not quite enough because we now know there's also a lot frontage and lot area. Which they, it's obviously it's a small lot. You do have, but I think that's the crux of this. I don't know if you agree with me. They do go through and you did make changes, and you not like another one today where they made changes and they made certain things even got bigger. But here you've gone through series and they seem to, I would argue that, or surmise that they might have been satisfied, but now they also found out that there's a lot frontage and lot area, and that I think is impacted their view. Anyway, let's see what other members have any questions or what their views are. Okay, so
if I could just elaborate slightly, Mr. Chair, I think it is important that planning is on the record to say that new lots should not be created that are this size. So that is important to have as a record of this decision. And it's also important existing law, we're not creating it.
Yes, I agree. That's important. Ms. Alderson, you had a question?
Yeah, I do. So without going through every one of the over 100 letters, I'm just wondering, do you have one from 101 Rosemount? Because that is a heritage home directly adjacent to this property. So I'm wondering if you have a letter from them of support.
101 are the owners of this property. So they currently reside at 101, which is also
so it's
1 Queens Drive.
It's not the house on the other side. It's not the house on the other side. I thought it might be the house on the other side. Okay.
No,
so
Nancy
101 obviously,
is on the line.
they obviously support it.
Yes.
Because it is considered one of the heritage gems in that neighborhood. As you're probably aware, they are that neighborhood is seeking heritage. It's actually seeking heritage conservation status. I don't know where that status is at the moment, but I was concerned because it is beside one of the gems in that neighborhood. So obviously, if they support it, I'm good with it.
Absolutely, they dedicated quite a lot of their lives to revitalizing the heritage character of that home, and in combination of the investment they've made in that property and the outreach they've done here, I think speaks to the quality of the home they're hoping to propose.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, if there's no other questions, would someone like to weigh in with a motion, perhaps, Ms. Alderson? Mr. Taylor?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I think the important consideration for us here is that this is an existing lot of record.
Yes.
It needs to accommodate a building, and I don't think the building that's proposed is egregious at all. I find the variances to be satisfying the 4 tests. And I move approval subject to urban forestry conditions 1, 2, and 3.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. The seconder for that? Ms. Raddick, thank you. All in favor? Unanimous approval. Okay, thank you, Mr. Race.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Okay, we have our next application is item number 38, 51 Wilmar Road. It's an application to construct a new detached dwelling with an attached garage. And there are 4 variances. And we have forestry looking for a refusal. We have a forestry report. And we have planning requesting a condition of approval Proposal developed, construct as illustrated. This one's got the new wording, not the old one. As illustrated in the architectural site plan as it relates to building length and depth. And we have on this application as well, the materials from the previous application. This matter was before the committee on February 23rd, 2022. Okay. The speaker is Lucas Cocomello on behalf of the owners.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and committee members. I'm here today representing the homeowner of 51 Wilmar Road.
Okay, can you remind us why this matter was deferred?
Okay, sorry. So we had to defer the application from the previous hearing due to one of the variances not being listed on the public notice.
Okay.
So a deferral was required.
Okay. Very good. Okay, committee members, would you like I see we have a length and depth. Community planning is okay with it, subject to it being tied to plans. I don't believe we need a presentation. Does anyone have any questions for the applicant? I assume, sure, so you're okay with the recommended staff condition?
Yep, I have no issues with that.
Okay. What about forestry? What's the issue with forestry?
Okay, so Forestry's report indicates that we are proposing to remove 2 trees. There's 2 trees in question that are creating a little bit of friction on this project. The city tree,
city-owned Lindy, yeah,
up on the towards the front of the property, and one of the private trees that is that is being encroached.
Yeah, 40 centimeters.
Yeah, that's being encroached by the rear deck
We have
area.
a report on the screen as you perhaps staff can scroll to the picture of the 2 trees. Thank you.
So I'd like to just add a note. We're not going to remove the tree, the city tree located in the front of the property. We can't do that anyways. So what we're going to do with that tree in question is request an injury. Should committee see that we can receive approval on condition to submit a tree injury application to Urban Forestry. With regards to the private tree within the rear yard, Urban Forestry sent this report out 7 days ago, so there hasn't been enough adequate time to discuss further on a separate route to mitigate the actual potential injury or removal required for that tree. So we have no issues with sending in separate applications to Forestry and discussing further with them on what would be required to receive approval from them.
Okay. Members, any questions for the agent? Someone ready to weigh in with a motion? Mr. Taylor, let me go to.
Mr. Chair, I'm satisfied the requested variances meet the 4 tests under the Planning Act. And I move approval subject to the Community Planning Department condition and Urban Forestry conditions 1 and 2.
Okay, thank you. Seconded for Mr. Taylor's motion. Ms. Alderson, thank you. All in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you, sir. Mr. Cucciolillo, you got your approval. And Cocomello, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, you have your approval and subject to the conditions. And that brings us, it's now past 3 p.m., so we can proceed with our last application. The agent is Graham Barrett. He's well versed with the process of committee. So I don't believe we need a presentation. There's no neighbors here with objections or concerns. So let's hear from Mr. Barrett. This is 116 Regent Street. It's to construct a 2-story front addition, a 2-story rear addition with a rooftop deck and a 2nd and 3rd floor additions above the existing dwelling. We have on this application, Urban Forestry requesting addition number 1. And get this thing to open. Okay, I don't see, can't get my bookmark to open here for some reason. Perhaps staff, what do we have before us in this application? Oh, here it is. Okay, we have a cover letter and supporting materials. We have the request to reschedule because this was deferred back from December 9, 2021. We have planning recommending condition of, they want variance 7 refused. And variance 6 for the proposed 3rd floor platform reduced. So we'll hear from Mr. Barrett whether those are matters that have already been agreed upon with community planning. I don't see any revised plans, but let's hear from Mr. Barrett.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm Barrett, 1575 Dundas West, agent for the owner, 116 Regent Street. You broke up a little bit at the beginning there, so hopefully I didn't miss anything vital. But I'll gladly run through the situation we're in. So this item was previously deferred, as you mentioned. It's a proposal to convert the existing 1-story single-family dwelling into a 3-story single-family dwelling. We've attempted to work with staff to arrive at a plan that works, and staff have outlined some of the process in their report, but it's a bit unusual in that they expressed concerns about the original proposal. We deferred it. Those concerns included the front yard setback, the height, pedestrian entrance, and rear yard soft landscaping, all of which have been rectified. So planning staff then indicated that their concerns have been addressed. We were quite pleased. We submitted a new zoning notice, and once that finally came back, it included a previously unidentified variance for side exterior main wall heights. So the zoning examiner had missed that. The design hadn't changed in any way relating to side exterior main wall heights from the original or from the revision, which planning staff had expressed that they were fine with. So this came as a bit of a surprise to us. And staff then indicated that they wouldn't be able to support the side exterior main wall height variances, despite the fact that design hadn't changed since they'd given us their okay on it. So a bit of an unfortunate situation there. Staff have also requested that the 3rd floor platform be reduced to 9.5 square meters, and the owner is happy to meet that request. I actually have submitted revised plans. They're dated March 17th. I believe they're on the AIC with that 3rd floor rear balcony reduced. I'm also aware of the urban forestry condition regarding a city tree. It's a neighboring tree in the front, and it's quite far from the proposed development. And considering that this is an addition on existing, we don't anticipate any problems with that tree and are happy to obtain an arborist and a permit to injure as required. Some other key points here. Because this is an addition on existing, the FSI is such that it is because the basement level is counted towards that calculation. To eliminate that variance, underpinning would have been required, and the same really goes for the side main wall height variances. To reduce those, we would have had to either demolish the home and dig down, but considering this is an addition on existing and the ground floor is already slightly raised, it's somewhat unavoidable to accommodate the design 3rd floor livable space desired by the owners. I can go through each of the other variances if you'd like, but again, improvements have been made on several of those. And beyond that, I appreciate staff's responsiveness and willing to discuss this. Unfortunately, this side exterior main wall height variance is a bit of a sticking point.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Barrett. So just a couple of housekeeping things. First of all, I guess, so do we have the revised plans that Mr. Barrett spoke to dated March 17th showing the reduction in the 3rd floor platform to 9.5 square meters?
Yes, that would be them.
Hi, Mr. Chair.
Okay,
Yeah,
and
what's on the screen here is the revised plans dated March 18th.
And what you're telling us is that they missed these this main wall height, that your plans have not actually changed, but they missed it the first go around. So they sort of your position. I guess they agreed to the built form, but they realized when they didn't see the numerical, oh, they got a little alarmed at that number. But that number, I said, it is reflective in your plan and your overall height, correct?
That is exactly correct, sir.
Yeah. So that's what we have to, I guess, come to grips with here in terms of what they're came in with at this. Would your plan be workable if that variance was refused? We might as well refuse the whole application?
Well, the owners attempted to work with the designer, change the roof line. It really couldn't really come up with a suitable design that worked without really compromising the appearance, and it would have looked very bizarre. I saw a couple of iterations and they didn't really make sense. Beyond that,
and we don't have
or demolishing.
Right. There's no neighbors opposed to this or anything?
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, and these are a series of additions as opposed to trying to make something work, as opposed to knocking it down and building from scratch. So these are additions. Correct. Okay, so let's see if sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, or underpinning, which everybody knows is messy, costly, and disruptive to neighbors.
Okay, neighbors don't seem to be opposed to this. Members, any questions for Mr. Barrett, or I guess it's time to make a motion.
Can we just get clarification that he's changing variance number 6 from 11.4 to 9.5?
Yes, that's correct. And I included a marked up public hearing notice with my cover letter, but that is the only change.
I know, but you didn't submit a waiver, so that's why we didn't do the revision sheet. You should be doing that with any revised plans.
Apologies.
Okay, so item 6 as revised to 9.5 square meters from 11.4. Otherwise, and the issue was this issue was community planning versus Mr. Barrett's explanation with respect to that his plans have not changed, but they just didn't see the variance and whether it should be accepted. Members, any questions or a motion? Mr. Taylor.
Mr. Chair, I'm concerned that this house presents as a 3-story house on a street which is characterized by bungalows and 2-story houses. And not surprisingly, the 3-story appearance of this house requires about a 35% exterior main wall height increase in variance 7. So I would go along with the planning report on this, that it's the house isn't compatible in this immediate context, and I would move refusal.
Just the one variance or the entire application?
The entire application.
Okay, thank you. Seconder for that motion? Ms. Reddick? All in favor? Ms. McCluskey is in favor, so the motion carries 3-2 with Ms. Alderson and Mr. Clark opposed. The application is refused. Okay, Mr. Barrett, have a great afternoon. Sorry about
you as well. Thank you.
Okay, and members, I guess we need our most important motion of the day, motion to adjourn.
Happy to make that one.
Okay, thank you. Seconded by Mr. Taylor. So we'll see you next time. Have a great afternoon and evening, everyone.
Hey, everybody.
Thanks for a fun day, guys.
I hope to,
Good timing for a 39 item hearing.
yeah, and hope to see you all and at some point in the future in person.
That would be nice.
Okay. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
We'll have a party.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.